Warning, you are about to hear a discussion today that may make you a bit uncomfortable, but we say good because we want truth, we want reality. You may feel raw to you. But again, we want you to know what's going on. A lot today surrounding sexual exploitation. We'll be discussing the landscape of what exactly that is, trauma bonding, healing, wherever we go with all of this. Um, I feel like, Lisa, so much has been normalized and habituated in our society, and people as a whole, and I'm not judging, really don't understand these issues that are so critical and crucial for all of us to understand. But you know what? We have Lisa Phillips with us today, and not on her watch, because Lisa Phillips is a warrior and she is also a movement. So Lisa is redefining what it means to be a powerful woman in Hollywood and way beyond. I'm in New York City. Lisa's out there in Hollywood land, I'll call it. From surviving abuse to healing to leading advocacy, she's created a global platform for truth, justice, and transformation. And I say, yes, amen, with a lot of exclamation points for that. Lisa, I could dive in and kind of read your bio, and I'm going to have all of your information in the body of this video, but and I have a lot of notes here. I'm going to jump in, but I'm going to start with the website is lisaphillips.la. And again, nobody has to worry right now. I'm having everything in the body of the video. But you have a groundbreaking and multi-award winning, nominated, winning. I don't know what you are. I'm going to say winning. You're nominated, and I call you a winner. So in my book, you're a warrior winner. Okay. Podcast from now on. And full disclosure, I met you on the Nancy Grace show, Crime Stories with Nancy Grace. And I'm like, I'm going to reach out to Lisa because what she's doing, I looked up your website, is exactly what we need to keep up the discussion, to keep up the empowerment of each other, to keep up that we're here for each other, and just to have a voice to talk about these issues. And that podcast is available on every platform known to man and womankind. But let's get right to you, Lisa. So welcome, Lisa Phillips, to the Warriors.
Thank you so much for having me, Lynn. I'm super excited to be here.
No, of course, because I wrote down so many things about you, but I really want to start with how did we get here? It's your story to tell. So you can start with anything you want about anything.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for your sensitivity
Oh,
on the Nancy Grace show, for reaching
you're
out to me.
welcome. You're
Yes.
welcome.
Yeah, a lot of the images that were shown on the show I hadn't seen. And it's really hard for survivors to look at stuff from that time period of when, the abuse happens. And it's also really hard for survivors just to speak out because there's always shame. And shame keeps us silence, and silence is what abusers want. And people need to understand there's always one abuser and one victim. And people see the victim as they're lashing out or they're staying in the relationship or they're not doing anything or telling anyone or going to the police. And all of a sudden they look at the victim and they shame them. But that's the whole reason why I created the podcast. My podcast was really about educating people about shame and about trauma because that's where it all lies. That's the foundation of abuse is the trauma and then the silence. And most people are just I was silenced after my abuse with Epstein in the early 2000s. I didn't start speaking out or feel safe enough to speak out until 2019. You know how many years later that is? It's only
Yeah.
20 years later. But it's because you suppress it so much. Oh, that didn't happen. Or if you see things, oh, I don't want to, you don't even, your mind doesn't even go there because you want to be protected.
Right.
You want to protect what happened to you. And you're also ashamed of what happened to you because what part did I play in that? And how are people going to judge me? But in 2019, when I started speaking out, the reason is because I had a boyfriend at the time who saw my reaction when he died. I saw it on the TV screen. I was looking right at it, and I just had this overwhelming, like, sobbing and confusion of, did I like this guy or do I hate this guy? Did he
Right.
abuse me or was he good to me? And then I had to actually face the facts. And I didn't have anyone who wanted to support me during that time because, oh, Epstein, he's this monster. He abused all these underage girls in Florida. And yes, he was a monster and he abused all these underage girls in Florida. But I was an over 18-year-old girl in New York City. The girls that hung around or was in Jeffrey's orbit, and there was hundreds of them.
Wow.
There were models and actresses and
Mhm.
businesswomen and smart women, and he loved intelligent, beautiful young women. And so to young women and people in the industry, that's kind of normal, for 18 and
Yes.
older. Okay, these older guys like younger girls. I saw it everywhere. Even with the owners of the modeling agencies would bring us around older guys, younger girls, but they were always over 18. So we didn't really think anything of it. So when this whole thing came about Jeffrey Epstein in 2007, 8,
Mhm.
9, 10, you know, we went to jail and just got slapped on the wrist for being with these underage girls. It was like, whoa, who is this man?
Right.
What is going on? Vanity Fair did an article about him.
I remember.
It was just all this stuff going. And so the over 18 girls just stayed far away from this whole topic as we could because it was like, who is this person? It wasn't who we knew. But the abuse that happened with the underage girls was the same abuse that happened with the 18 to 25-year-old girls.
Yeah.
So it was the same. And so I started realizing when I started watching the younger girls speaking out, I kept
Mhm.
thinking, wow, that's exactly what was happening to me. There's no difference,
Right.
except for I was over 18. Um, and then we start to learn about trauma and how it affects us through our lives. And how after that, when we can get into, what happened to me. But after what happened to me, not being able to trust men or being
Yes.
in normal relationships was very difficult for me because of almost the abuse and the programming that happened with Jeffrey Epstein.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
my podcast that I started last year was to educate. I really wanted to educate people on why we stay
Yeah.
silent for so long and why the trauma affects our life in marriages and relationships going forward until you heal that.
Yeah.
So that's just
Oh,
my intro on how I got to where I am today.
let's be real. So I'm a New Yorker. I've lived here my whole life, right? Um, I'm almost 65. I'll be 65 on my next birthday.
Woo, you look good.
Thank you. But even it's shocking for me to say that I don't really think about age, but when I just said that out loud, it's like
Mhm.
shocking. But I don't really think about age. But I want to point something out that you touched upon. So I also started out of college in the music business, but I did jingles. It was like live music for television commercials. We used to do that then and hire musicians and go to studios, and there were after parties. You dealt with ad agencies. So it was really people have to understand there was always that dynamic of like if you were in the music, entertainment, Broadway, like you were hanging out even
Oh,
if you
yeah.
were 18 plus. That's
Mhm.
right. You know what I'm talking about. It's just like there was
That's part
nothing
of
wrong with it. That was just like what it was, right? You go to parties, whatever. So I don't think people, unless they're sort of in the business, understand what that was like. But that's the norm, right? And listen, everybody, let's face it, everybody wanted to be around Jeffrey Epstein. The guy had a
Mhm.
lot of money, and he was, telling young women he would invest in their career or help them with their career. Like that's the norm. Like
And he
people
did
have to,
that. He
and he
followed
did
up
that.
and did
Like
that.
he did that. So it's like that's and I'm not defending him or supporting him. I'm doing nothing, right? But I'm just saying people have to understand. First of all, there's a lot of Jeffrey Epsteins out there.
Oh,
There
yeah.
there are even I can't even figure out Harvey Weinstein. Again, I'm not defending him because we have Diddy trial going on here in New York City. We have Harvey Weinstein in jail here. His trial started up again here. He's doing something again in New York. Like why is he the only one in jail now? Like there should be so many of them in jail. And I mean that. And so people have to understand the dynamics, different times, different whatever, but money talks and power talks. And that's just the way it is. We're just got to admit it. The thing these people are so good at, Lisa, is now, of course, I'm brilliant in my older age. I didn't know at the time. Like, it's that power dynamic.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? It's the
Oh,
power.
yeah.
And when we're 18, 20, 22, 25, I don't know about you, like, I really thought I knew the world. Like,
Mhm.
I remember being 18 thinking, "I'm an adult, and I really know what's going on here," but yet we
Sure.
were babies.
Mhm.
We
Babies.
didn't realize even around all this stuff that we were really, babies. So, did it take you how long did it really take you to figure out? Was it that 2000 when he was arrested? Like, I may be a victim of trafficking, even though you always point out the few times I've been hearing you, like, okay, I was of age,
Mhm.
but in essence, you were still trafficked.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care what he did for you or gave you or helped you. It was the power dynamic, force, fraud, fraud, right?
Mhm.
But you can fill in the blanks with that one. But this is a big part of survivors. I don't know if you like that word. I don't know what other word should I use?
I like
Thrivers. Okay, survivor, thriver. Okay, because you're
survivors.
thriving now. Survivor,
Mhm.
thriver. Because I mean, it's descriptive. That's what it is. But it's it's that I have to go back to that power dynamic. They are so smart in in the way they treat girls and women. You know, I'm going to just say that I had no proof, nothing. Like I always heard about Jeffrey Epstein on the streets of New York, but
Mhm.
I never saw anything. I wasn't involved. I wasn't, and I'm talking about 10 years ago, right? But what could I do about it? Do you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't. I always heard about him and girls, but I didn't have proof, and I wasn't working in this then kind of thing. But I
But when you
guess
hear girls, you always thought 18 and over, like, just like young girls.
I I I never thought, like, due to my background, this is how I feel stupid now, like, it didn't occur to me like kids,
No.
right?
Mm.
Or because I actually heard, I don't know if it's true, but I had heard there was, he had this apartment in Paris. And in Paris, there were indeed 12, 13, and 14-year-olds, but then I never heard about that in the media or anybody bringing that forward, so that may be not true, I don't know, but I always heard that there.
Wow.
And then here I had, especially a friend of mine, after this all went down, she would say to me, she lives nearby to 71st Street. She'd say, "Oh, yeah, I used to see the girls in their school uniforms knocking on the front door." I'm like, "Well, what do you mean school uniforms? Like, were they in seventh, eighth grade? Were they in high school? Because you look like a woman in a school uniform when you're 17, 18." She's like, "I don't know.
Mhm.
They were in school uniforms." And I
Mhm.
thought it was strange. I'm like, "Well, you didn't say anything to anybody?" Or she said, "No, what am I going to say?" She told me she
Mhm.
saw girls going in and out. So I'm saying, I don't know what I'm saying to you, Lisa. I'm saying to you, why do women feel shame? They're
Mhm.
so good, these predators, these
They're master
traffickers.
manipulators.
That's what I'm saying. They are just full of that manipulation. You have nothing to be ashamed about at all. Easy for me to say to you, they are the shameful ones. We've got the
Mhm.
Diddy trial going on right now. It's the same kind of story, vulnerable, alleged victims, I'm supposed to say, right? For years, and I'm saying back into the 90s, I heard about Diddy,
Mhm.
from girls in
Oh,
the
yeah,
Bronx
same
and
here.
Brook. No, I mean, from girls in the Bronx and Brooklyn. You want to hang out on a music video. You want to come be part of the entourage. You want to be our makeup artist, hairstylist. Now, fast forward, they're like in their 40s, and they say to me, I was trafficked. I didn't even know it. Like I didn't, and we didn't talk about trafficking. We talked about domestic violence starting in like the 80s. We didn't talk about trafficking. It's a relatively, in America, kind of a new thing to really openly talk about it. So when did you really figure this out? Was it when he was arrested that you said, gee, I think I'm trafficked. I was trafficked.
No, no, I didn't think about trafficking at all. It was because, I started speaking out, and then I was also deposed for
Oh, you
cases,
were.
and I
Okay.
was telling my story, and through my attorneys kept saying to me, "You sound like you were trafficked," but I never thought I was trafficked. It was
Right.
just through telling my story, my attorneys kept saying, "That's trafficking," but we were uncovering Jeffrey's web, right? He manipulates a woman, he sees how far he can groom her, then he
Yeah.
takes her, and then from there, he offers her to meet a publishing house or an art studio or a director. And
Yeah.
from there, those men know when he sends them to them that they're going for sex or the possibility that sex will happen,
Right.
right? So we don't know that we're being trafficked. We just think, oh, we're going to meet a director, a big Hollywood director for a movie. And you would actually go and audition for that movie. So everything that Jeffrey had set up actually happened. Because you do hear about these traffickers that say, "Oh, you're coming to Vegas and you're going to be in this movie or you're going to be an extra in a music video." And they show up and that's not the case.
Right.
A lot of traffickers are like that. I hear it all the time. I've had them on my podcast. And they come in and they were fooled into it. But Jeffrey was different. Jeffrey did everything he said he was going to do. That's how he kept these smart, beautiful women in his orbit, because he would actually get them their visas, introduce them to their husbands, bring them to these big events, get them into movies, fashion shows, Victoria's Secret, whatever it was. He actually did what he said he was going to do. So for me, he said, I'm going to fly you to LA and you're going to meet this director, very famous director. And I flew to LA to meet with him. I actually auditioned. I actually had a small part in a movie. And so I'm thinking, wow, Jeffrey's a great guy. He introduced
Mm-hmm.
me to someone. That's an actual connection. That's normal things people do.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't find out until many years later that when I went to that director, he also sent 10 other girls to him. So when you're sending 10 of them, what's the probability maybe a few of them will sleep with you?
Yes.
He's actually sending you for the probability to have sex with that person. We don't know that. The
Right.
the actual trafficked women don't know that what's happening. That's the whole thing about trafficking. You don't know that you're being trafficked for sex. It's just a surprise on you when you get there. And then young women are just like, "Oh, I wonder why all these men are hitting on me." Then you start to figure it out. But still, I didn't think about it back then that when he would
Mm-hmm.
send me to somebody for a movie role or something that I thought he was helping me with my career, I didn't know that it was actually for sex. I just thought, "Oh, dumb luck. These men are trying to have sex with me." Like you would think as if you went to an audition, because I would go to auditions by myself and movie directors would still try to have sex with me. So I couldn't really see the difference back then. So it wasn't until we learned that Jeffrey Epstein was
Right.
trafficking hundreds of women, and then it was the same men that were popping up to all of us. We know kind of who the men are on the list. And then we're like, "Oh, I was sent to him too. I was sent to him too. Oh my gosh, I was sent to him too." And you start talking to each other, and it's like you know who these men are.
Mm. I could talk to you all day about, but when we were young, I don't know. That's how kind of it was.
Right.
I was going to an ad agency. I started with MTV when they were born. Like I went to them to pitch,
Oh wow.
that we can handle some jingles, do some spots. Like it was just part of the business that I brushed off. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know, it was a different mindset or something. We
Well,
know
it's
so
not
much
really
more.
you were and still are an ambitious woman. So when
Mm,
you showed up at MTV, someone who's a predator would prey on your ambition. So
yes.
it's in any career. The power dynamic is there. Your ambition is a signal to them, okay, I can take advantage of her. And that's the
Right.
power dynamic. He's older, you're younger. And it's, oh, you want this position? You have this great idea? I can help you. Why don't you come to dinner with me tomorrow night and we'll talk about it? That's what happens. That's where the
Exactly.
assault has it's slow. He has a target on you, and it's slow. It doesn't happen just right away. It doesn't pull you into the newsroom and, rape you right there. No, it happens very slowly. Because we're talking about predators here. We're not talking about regular men who just have a crush on you,
Right. Right.
right? We're
Right.
talking about predators. And this is a very big difference that a lot of the men in the comments are like, "Oh," and they stick up for these predators. Like, you don't understand the difference between a master manipulator. He is going to get his target one way or the other if
Yes.
he's fixated on you. And he can
Yeah.
be fixated. Jeffrey Epstein was fixated on 6 or 8 women a day.
Unbelievable. That is a true mental something. I don't know. But you know what, Lisa? Just recently I figured out, maybe 6 months ago, I also didn't get a lot of jobs. And at the time, because I was like all businesslike.
Mhm.
And now doing this work and all that, I'm like, Oh, okay. I didn't play ball. Now I know why my
Well,
work was so superior because then I did film scores and some TV stuff and Broadway. I'm like, no, my stuff was far better,
well, you were too smart, and you also
but I
probably
didn't.
came from a great home with a great father, then they feel all that stuff out to
Yes,
know
they
who
go
they can
for
target.
yes, but that's the flip side. I'm like, wow. But now I think it was because I didn't fool around like that. I didn't get the job. So that's the other side we as women, have to deal with, not getting promoted or something because of this type of thing. But let's talk about grooming because now you touched upon a little bit. We didn't use the word grooming. I don't think the public understands grooming because I'm going to say it again like a broken record. What we talk about, and we're about education, raising awareness of the warriors, getting the information into the public's hands. That is what I want to do more than anything. But let me just go back for a second. I wanted to say I'm so excited that you're here and taking the time to talk with me today because, in society, we're constantly talking about how bad everything is.
Mhm.
Lisa, I'm of the mind we know this like all we know it all already. Like it's bad, right? These
Oh, yeah.
issues, exploitation. But you always talk about healing and hope and describe, and define for us what this actually is. And that for me is a warrior's move right there. That we're doing this today and we're providing this information. The public does not understand grooming. I do little speeches and focus groups all around this area. I'm in New York City. They don't get it. They
Well,
say to me,
most healthy people don't get it.
I know, but between online with the kids and the ages are getting younger and younger, and all the things, whether it's the Epstein story or Harvey Weinstein, now we have the Diddy story. People have to wake up. It's like a different environment we live in.
Well, let me explain grooming differently because I think when I talk about it, like in my scenario, people just want to judge too. Oh, you just wanted money, or you just wanted fame, or you just wanted to be in that lifestyle.
Who says that? I don't like
Oh,
that.
a lot of people.
Well, we have to block those people out because they don't know what they're talking about.
But it's just about having a need. Like the
Yes.
ambition is one thing, and that person knowing what you want and using that to their advantage to get
Yeah.
to make you think you're going to get there by them helping you. And they always have an end goal. Their end goal can take time. These people are super patient. It can
Patient,
take a
very
month, it can
patient.
take years, but their whole end goal is to get you. It's usually sexual, right? So it's just looking at what you're missing in your life. Usually it's the father figure. Usually it's
Yes.
something that you need, the love, the attention. Maybe it's just the job that you want, right? Or a school you want to go to, or getting an A plus in a class. And they see that need. And a healthy person, is just going to see that need and talk to you and give you some advice. But a predator is going to be like, oh, okay, how can I help this person and
Yeah.
really help them? Right. And make them feel loved and cared about and all those things that that person needs. Then I'll be able to get what I want because I'm manipulating their mind to think, right? To think that I'm their savior. And
Mhm.
that is what grooming is. And that can come in the form of I was driving my son to basketball the other day, and he had another kid in the car. And he says, "Oh, I'm going to Vegas to go meet this other kid." And I said, "Well, how did you meet him?" He was like, "On a gaming app." I said, "Well, how do you know he's a kid your age? Have you FaceTime him?" He's like, "No." I said, "Well, how do you know he's actually your age? He could be a 45-year-old balding man, you know, behind the
Biff,
key
Biff from
pretending to
Vegas. Yeah,
be."
Biff from Vegas. Yeah, yeah,
And as soon as
yeah.
he said Vegas, I was like protector mode. And because I've had women on my podcast and men that have been lured to Vegas by, predators pretending to be somebody else. So I was just with this kid is like he's actually being groomed. It's been months
Well,
and the
wait a minute.
other
Now I'm getting crazy. Like, how old is he?
this kid is 16 and the other kid is 15, he says. But okay, this could turn out to be a normal kid that he's going to Vegas. But my radar went off like, no, 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 no. Wait a second.
Mm-mm.
Find out first. FaceTime, have your dad FaceTime him. Figure this out before you get in a car and drive to Vegas to go meet a 15-year-old boy who wants to play basketball with you. Doesn't sound right to me. And so to talk about the
Mm-mm.
grooming process, that's grooming. Hey, what high school you go to? You love basketball? I love basketball too. Finding a common, you know,
Yes.
um, thing that they both like, finding out exactly what you like and talking about that and finding that commonality, right? And then playing into that, building the friendship just slowly to lure the
Yeah.
boy over to Vegas to have, a basketball game. And maybe it's just a basketball game, but here's how: if it's a predator, that's the same process. The 50-year-old boy is they're going to act like a 50-year-old boy and do the same process to get you to come to Vegas, where nothing good is going to happen if it's a predator.
I'm
And
glad you stepped
that
in.
is
Yeah.
grooming. People need to understand that is grooming. It looks just like a normal, relationship or friendship. It looks the same, but the difference is the predator is acting, is manipulating, is pretending to be that person that you're relating to in the
Yeah.
way that you need the most.
Well, this is the problem we have because we have the internet, which we all love. I mean, we're across country talking to each other. We're going to leverage it for good, where it's not going away. But it also, the flip side is it has brought on so much with child predation, teen predation scams all around.
Yeah, so bad.
We spend most of our time like teaching this to parents, family members, grandparents.
Yeah.
It's actually, we used to teach kids. And then I realized, no, it's the adults in the room that need this because they're always like, I didn't grow up with the internet. And I'm like, excuse me, I didn't grow up with it either. But you got to, if you have kids, you have a duty. You have a duty of care. I'm glad you spoke to him, because we have to.
Mhm.
We cannot just let kids drive off to Vegas. We cannot. Here's the thing: most of the boys, it's on gaming. They get sextortion,
Mhm.
or they're going to meet. 9 to 17-year-olds, Lisa. It is basically 1 in 4 will be approached
Mhm.
online. Sometimes they say 1 in 5, but that's like old already. So I'm saying 1 in 4,
That's
right?
still a lot. That's a lot.
I don't care. I don't care if it's like just one out of a
No,
million. It's
same
too much,
here.
right?
1 out
But
of 100. Like,
it's
it's a
too
lot.
it's too much, right? And remember, anything we know, like the numbers are always higher, right? Because it's hidden all this stuff, right? Um, but of that 1 in 4, we know over 40% of kids and teens will go out. This is 17 and under, will go out in real time to meet that person.
Oh, sure. Yeah, why not?
That is the
That's
most
that's my new
frightening.
basketball friend. Why wouldn't you go meet him?
That is the most frightening thing, though, that, this internet has, it's bred this familiar. We're familiar with everybody. We exchange our personal information. We're gaming. We're
Mhm.
whatever we're doing, and it is the most frightening thing for me that people can't understand it. The parents or the family members, right? And I don't understand why they can't. Like, I know it's dark and ugly a lot of, but like, these are our precious kids and young people and stuff. We have to understand these issues.
Mhm.
Um, what let's talk about, what is your description of trauma?
Mhm. Trauma for me is when you have a feeling in you that hasn't been resolved yet. So you have triggers when you're out and about and something triggers inside of you, and it's a trauma that's coming up and you don't know where it's from. A lot of times you don't know where it's from. Maybe after therapy you can identify it and work on it and build those boundaries up. But a lot of time it's just a feeling that comes over you that you it can manifest in different ways with different people. And for me it's kind of an anxiety that comes up where before I didn't really know
Yeah.
where it was coming from, but I've been in therapy now for over a year and now I can identify things. But it's always a feeling that comes up.
Yeah, because I saw trauma on your face. We were on the Nancy Grace show. It's nothing I wouldn't say to her face. You know what I'm saying? So she's fine with it.
Sorry,
No, but
Nancy.
no,
Oh, no,
no,
but
we
what you're
love, no,
referring
no,
to is
no, we
they
love
were showing
images.
Epstein
That's what I want you to
in
describe. No, we
jail
love our
being
Nancy. We
hung
love
and
our
all this stuff,
Nancy.
like,
Yeah,
I was like,
because you never saw those images before. So that's when I saw your face, and it goes, part and parcel to, first of all, Crime Stories with Nancy Grace. We love her so much. She's a tremendous warrior who wants to cover all of these issues. But at the same time, I knew you weren't prepared to see those images. Like, I just knew it. And I'm like, oh, this could set you off for, and not knowing you really at that point, but working with other women and girls, like this could set you off into a bad space for,
"Mm,
so I was very concerned about you. But see, that's the thing. I don't think people really like realize that stuff.
no," because it's easier to suppress it,
Yes.
not think about it. That's just what I mean, I know over I would say about 18 that I know personally of Epstein victims,
Wow.
survivors who won't speak out or s
I know a lot of
or won't even acknowledge anything about it, but I know they had the same, scenarios that happened as I did. But they don't want to even just think about it or talk about it, and that's okay, they don't have
yeah.
to. But what happens is, and this happened to me for 19 years until it was actually 15 years until I spoke out. That manifests in so many different ways, the trauma in your body that you're not even aware of. And it's healing, like healing through that trauma is just so powerful. And I didn't realize that, and I never would have thought because I'm like, oh, I'm not doing therapy. But when I really went into therapy and talked about what really happened and owned it, to be able to let it go and let
Yeah.
that shame go, oof, I am such a more resilient and powerful woman.
Love
And
that.
it just comes over you because it's like, I don't have to hold that shame anymore. And
Mhm.
I don't have to hold it other people putting it on me either. Sometimes you have to let go of some family or friends that are trying to keep you in that, to have that narrative over you. And you don't have to have any narrative over you, right? You can define your life of how you want to lead it. And I want to lead it without this trauma anymore in my body and in my soul and my heart. And I want to let it go. And I also want to be a beacon of hope for others to be able
Yes.
to go through that healing process, because that's what I feel like why I created this podcast. Feel like, what in the world are you doing? And it was like, I need this podcast. I
Yes.
need it. I sit down with women that have either in the thick of their trauma or going through it or healing. And we all have
Mm.
stories to tell and learn from. We really do, and through that, I was healing even more by listening. If you
Mhm.
watch my podcast, I cry a lot through my
Yeah.
podcast, and I didn't
I
cry for
saw.
20 years, but I
Mm.
will literally cry tears for my guest who's telling me the story because, whoo, trauma isn't an abuse, assaults
Yeah.
on children, on no matter what age, it's rough what a lot of people go through and they
It's
keep
it's
inside. It's rough.
it's very rough, and that's why what you do on the podcast, sharing your story, letting them know like they're not alone.
Yeah.
Because remember, there's like power in numbers. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay, you too, kind of thing. That's why it's tremendous what you do. And a lot of women will tell me that they get such satisfaction. This sounds like what you're doing, by helping others,
Mhm.
and you're with the voice, and it's very therapeutic. They'll tell me this, like they sometimes can't help themselves, but they're helping another survivor,
Mhm.
kind of thing. So whatever works and makes it, but you're really helping, giving them voice,
Mhm.
because it's very easy, Lisa. I could take the Warriors channel and I could just I'd get huge numbers. I'd call everybody a pedophile and I would go crazy and I would drop names of people I know. I just don't do it. Like, I'm trying
Mhm.
to be educational. I'm trying to be, you know,
Yes. And that's
empowering.
okay, and you could have bigger numbers, right, if you did what they want. When I was
I'm not
shopping
doing it.
my podcast, everyone wanted me to sit down with experts and talk about the the predator. They wanted me to just talk about the predator. I'm like, "I don't wanna talk anything about them. I don't wanna focus on them. I wanna hear the survivor voices." "Oh, well, that won't sell." "Oh, I don't care." Do you know with my
I agree.
podcast, I am the executive producer. I am the one who produced this podcast and put up the money for it. You know
No,
what
but
I
I
mean?
mean,
Because I couldn't get investors to want to hear survivor voices. They wanted to only talk to, like, look, you have the presence, talk to the authors and experts. And I don't want to do that. I'm a survivor. I want to talk survivor to survivor.
yes.
So I was like, if you're not going to do it, I don't care. I'll just do it myself. And that's what I
Good.
did. I did
That's
it
a
all
warrior.
myself for the first year.
That's a warrior. That's the warrior way. I knew you were a warrior,
Yeah.
but that's the other thing. People would say to me, "Oh, Lynn, with my background, why don't you bring some celebrities in for the
Oh,
trafficking?" No, I'm not paying somebody. Actually, somebody approached me, a manager, if I could pay him $500,000 to build my presence because he's such. I'm like, $500,000. I'll
get
be
out of here.
building. No, it's true. I'll be building a facility for women who need a safe space. That's what I'm doing with my $500,000. It goes straight to survivors if they have kids. because people don't understand even like what we do at the Warriors, a lot of behind the scenes buying groceries for people, just everyday needs,
Mhm.
transportation. Their children at Christmas time need presents or birthdays that they are so thankful. All
Yeah,
those kind of little things
those
make a
little
difference.
things.
But can you imagine they would say to me when I started all of this?
Yeah.
Because my idea was the survivor would be the celebrity. I know that sounds a little, but I
Yeah,
wanted
that's
the
same
focus
here.
like that focus. We're going to learn because I
Mhm,
haven't been trafficked, abused, or exploited really. How can I do my job and talk
yeah,
about it if I don't talk with you and others who can
mhm,
shed light and can tell us what we need to do? Where are the holes we can plug in? Like I'm always looking for holes to plug in to make things
mhm.
better. So I don't know what they're doing, but good for you for doing all of this. It's just
Yeah.
going to no, it's going to build and it's ownership, right? You
Oh,
have oh,
mhm,
I know it's hard. Nothing's easy because I know not, but you have ownership.
mhm,
Ownership. And how dare somebody? They all have the same thing, use these words or do this or do that.
mhm.
No, no.
Well, I couldn't
Our
do it
ways.
that way. That's not
I
me,
could, I could
and I
never.
don't
I
wanna listen
can't.
to a therapist, tell me
I
about it. I wanna hear the survivor and how she got out of that abusive situation for
yes,
5 years or 30 years,
yes.
whatever
But
it is.
that's what helps.
That's how you educate.
Yes, but I mean that's what helps other women hearing that, right?
Yes.
So good for you for sticking with that. Let me ask you something. I've also had this said to me. Oh, well, they should just move on. She should move on. No. One goes into the trauma and stuff like that. Have you heard that? Have people said that to you or
To a lot of my guests, they have. I haven't had someone say it to my face. I'm in the comments, you know, people aren't supportive in that way. But that's that's the reason why they don't understand trauma. You can't just move on. And
Mhm.
even if you do, if you've healed and you're moving on, what's wrong with helping others to heal?
Exactly. Exactly.
What's wrong with
Exactly.
that? That's the only way we're going to get real change is if people understand what this is. Because look at Cassie. So many people, even women, did not believe Cassie when she filed a lawsuit. They're just like, "Oh, she just wants money." I mean, I believed her, of course, because I understand, what when from knowing, Puff Daddy back in the day, what was really going on. We all knew what was going on. But it
Mhm.
wasn't until the video came out where
Yes.
everyone, because you can't deny it now, everyone can see she was abused. That is the worst way to be abused. He doesn't just grab her by her arm and pull her into the room. He was kicking and beating her. She was scared. You can see it all. So there's no man out there can say, "Oh, she wasn't abused now and she doesn't deserve that." And then to hear really what kind of monster, he's a monster, that man. He's like a Larry Nassar and Epstein, Weinstein, like these men who are monsters. And they just want to say, "Oh, well, she emailed him back," or I see some flirty text messages here and
Yeah.
there. That's part of being abused. You're scared of that person, you play along. And
Yeah.
that's the education people need to understand because, the defense is just doing their job. But just because she's texting back and doing some playful memes here and there or whatever it is, or you stick around for a couple years is because you're scared for your life or they have that control over you. Coercive control is a real thing and it's scary. I
Yeah.
mean, with Jeffrey, I was scared to death of. I actually, a lot of people don't know this, but in 2004, I packed up my bags when he was starting to get the Vanity Fair article came out and I started to see a little bit of shift in him and I was starting to get scared. A girlfriend came to me and said he made her have sex with Prince Andrew, made her go into a room and do that. I was like, "Who is this man?" And we were both like, "We need to get out of here." I literally packed up my bags and moved from New York to Los Angeles to get away from Jeffrey Epstein. And it's funny because Ford Models called me like a week before I left and was like, "You have an audition for the Victoria's Secret show," which was huge at the time. I would have loved to
Yes.
have done it. Didn't do it. I was scared to death because he was tied to Victoria's Secret. And I thought,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's just a way of him like keeping me around." And so I said, "Oh, screw this." And I packed up and I left. And I went to Los Angeles where he doesn't frequent. And I was able to like just get away because it
Wow.
was starting to get really scary with Jeffrey towards the end.
Let me
When
ask you
people start
since
figuring things out.
no, but you had the wherewithal to do that because a lot of young women don't, it's easier to actually
Yeah.
stay even if it's you see things or it's a little abusive. because I hear this all the time. It's easier to stay and kind of not rock the boat than do. So good for you. But whatever
Mhm.
happened to Les Wexner with that whole thing? Like, I keep asking,
What
since you
happened?
brought up Victoria's Secret, it's like, oh my, that was do you remember the stores and everything? It was the biggest thing.
It
And
was
then
the
that
biggest, the
fashion
best thing,
show.
all the models wanted to do it, I don't know, and it
And
just
then
went completely crazy.
I don't know
Fell
whatever happened
apart.
to that Les Wexner because he was all involved. He's the one that sold Jeffrey the house for $1 or something
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm, yeah,
So,
they were
Lisa,
very close.
now you'll appreciate this, or maybe not. So I had this grandiose idea when that house was for sale, that mansion on 71st Street,
Mhm.
that there was like a public hearing. I thought I could buy it for $1. No, I was going to have like a cleansing and like a total, I know.
Run through the house with sage.
No, no, yes. And then make it a safe space for like women to come.
Oh, goodness.
I thought we could make good out of horror.
Yeah.
It didn't go anywhere, like, because I knew it wouldn't, but
I
like,
don't know if I could have stepped back in there.
but that's just it. It's like, but I thought if we had this total cleansing, we'd be giving back to like
Mhm.
victims, survivors,
Yeah.
and creating, even for new ones from other, exploitation, and it would be a statement kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I remember that used to be a school. That
Mhm.
building, that was a school because I remember when it was a school there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful
So
building.
beautiful. I think it's the largest single family
Mhm.
home
It
in
is.
Manhattan.
Yes. Mhm.
So really makes you wonder how we got it for $1, but I think we know. Now, let's forward about the podcast.
Okay.
Um, Fill us in a little bit.
Mhm.
Now you decide, okay, I'm going to take all this trauma, I'm going to focus on survivors, I'm going to focus on myself. I'm going to talk to other women, other people. How did you do it? How did you start it? So you said you did it all by yourself. I'm very
Mhm.
serious because starting something is actually 99% of it. You know what I mean? Getting there. Give us a little bit. I'm curious. Give us a little bit how you did all this.
Well, Simone Lilchuk, she was the one who listened to all the survivors for the, JP Morgan fund for the
Mhm.
settlement, and she was the first one who gave all of us survivors a real, like, a voice, and I was able to really tell my story to her, and through her and our attorneys, it just they kept saying, "You have a real voice, Lisa. You need to do something." And I was just like, "I don't know." I still was so worried about what are people gonna think, I'm still working on the shame part of everything, and they kept saying, "You need to do something," and other survivors would say the same thing. I'm like, "Yeah, you do it." But after a while, I was like, "You know what? I got this settlement, and I wanted to use it to give back to survivors."
Mm.
So, that's why I was saying I was shopping it, and people kept trying to steer me away from it, of what I really wanted to focus on. And I just said, "You know what? I was given this to make a difference." And I quit my job that week and just went full force into this podcast. Really thought about what I wanted to build and who I wanted to serve and the conversations that I wanted to have, deep, emotional, raw,
Mhm.
and heal others while I'm healing myself and educate the masses. So, the social campaigns that we have on TikTok, Instagram, Shorts are really geared towards education. And I knew, it was gonna take a while to build, but we built kind of quickly. I mean, we're almost at 18,000 subscribers on YouTube.
That's
And,
great.
when our I mean, which is a lot, we'd probably be way more than that, but our content sometimes gets shadow banned or pushed back because we're talking about some celebrities here, and so we notice that they get pushed down. But it's okay because we're not in it for the numbers, we're in it to make
Mm.
change, and so
I love it. I love
it's
that.
going to take time to make change, obviously. So, we're in it for the long haul, and I just wanted to be some hope. Yeah, that was the word for me. It's just to have hope for
Mhm.
survivors to say, you know, I I invested in these survivors. Some of them I flew out from across the country. Some of
Mhm.
them, I put up in hotels and like I just wanted them to be here. I chose with my team the right survivors. It wasn't just anyone who lives in Los Angeles, come to our studio in downtown LA. No,
Yeah.
we really, well, my showrunner did first, is sit down and have conversations, hearing the
Mhm.
whole story. and really being strategic about who we brought on the podcast to focus on child sexual assault from boys and from girls, from incest, mothers, fathers, just some really intense stuff, domestic violence that went on for 30 years, and the survivor found their courage through faith to leave an abusive situation. So we didn't just focus on the predators like the Cosbys and the Epsteins, which is what we started off doing, was focus on these serial predators in Hollywood, arts, and sports. And we did hit up like the NFL and certain, sports and arts. But really, I started to realize, like, there's violence, there's abuse in all businesses,
Yes.
tech,
Yeah.
everywhere. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, can I really take on all this other abuse? I've had a woman on who was shot by her husband, just all sorts of things. And I'm like, we need to talk about everything right now. So we ended up strategically just like picking people all over, all different types of abuse.
Yeah.
That's been so rewarding to me. Not only am I getting educated of all the different types of abuse that exist, because there's coercive control and narcissistic types, and these sadists, and just all different types that I didn't even know. But learning about these trauma bonds and all these different types of abuse, I've been able to go through my relationships and be like, oh, that's what I was going through. That makes a lot of sense. And then being able to build these
Yeah.
boundaries. We're all learning to build, to know what it is, pick out what exactly it is, and have the boundaries, and to be able to get the support systems or legal advice, or press charges or get restraining orders, whatever it is that you need, find a safe place and get out of these abusive relationships. And that's really what it's about, for the people to get out of these abusive relationships, heal themselves, and move on with their lives while educating everybody. Most
Yeah.
important, that's still going to be the most important thing to me, is education, because we will not get change until the public is educated.
You're saying everything. I can't even add to it. Our hashtag at the Warriors, community creates change. Because even though I may fight in Washington, our state capital, Albany, I do that, to create change in policy, law, legislation. But
No,
it's
it's so
happening on the,
important what you're doing,
it's
Lynn. It's just
it's
so
very
important.
important, Lisa. But you
There's
know
people
what?
don't understand how many people are abused, how many children are abused.
Listen, you brought up a couple of things. It's like, what don't we talk about here? I feel like all of this is a wheel with a lot of spokes, right? There's so many issues. The domestic violence intersects with trafficking. They really do. Uh, New York State, listen to this fact. We have 15 designated beds in the whole state of New York for women human trafficking victims. They've
We
put
only
all
have
their,
17 here in California.
see, look, we're almost twins. And we're
Mhm.
supposed to be, New York and California, the leader states. They think of that in Washington. California and New York are leader states. We have 32 beds. They put everything here into domestic violence. We're trying very hard to get it separated out. So they'll lump in, sex trafficking, labor trafficking with domestic violence. And domestic violence just fills everything up. They come first. Everybody, 15 designated beds. Forget kids, they get thrown into foster care, which is another program. But here's the thing. I am very concerned, Lisa. We've talked for years. I'm old enough. I was like at the tail end of the real women's movement in the 70s. Like, it was like every kind of woman. I grew up in New Jersey, not far from New York City. Every kind of woman I'd watch. Oh, I always loved news. We only had 3 channels then. So I was always watching news when I was a kid, the evening news. Every kind of woman. I was so impressed as a kid. They were marching. Our neighbor took her bra. I don't know what that was. She hung it off a tree. She was not wearing a bra, but I know. But I saw every color, every religion, every economic background. Women, true. And if you look this up and do some, research, women really came together. Now, fast forward, okay. I'm going to say this. My worst enemies have been women.
Same
In
here.
in business, like, I'm a true collaborator. And then
Yeah.
you don't know until you're working with somebody what they're really like. That's the other problem. Everything seems great before you start anything. Then you start, and then you find out what they're like. You're too deep in, you can't get away, or something like that. That happened to me in business, a lot years ago. And so now we have all these groups and online and this and that, women's empowerment, true mentorship. Lisa, I'm here to tell you, I I don't think we have a lot of true mentorship and in women's empowerment, something I'm really working on building because I don't think we have it.
No.
I don't understand if women are just so insecure or
Yeah.
get jealous. Let's be real here.
Mhm.
And I'm very concerned about our young women, because
Mhm.
they'd rather be on OnlyFans or sugaring,
Mhm.
right,
Big
than
thing.
working at CVS.
Mhm.
And so what could you say? I'll just throw this in. I was with a wonderful young woman from Columbia the other day, and she told me she's very proper, really smart, and all that. And she said, "Guess what? Part of my focus groups I do, and we're talking." She said a lot of girls at Columbia are doing videos of their feet, and they'll get paid $300 a shot. I'm like, oh, okay, like I understand money, but she said you don't know. She was shocked. She heard about this. She's like, I didn't know.
So weird.
So I'm just saying that I'm just throwing this out there that this is what our society has kind of devolved into.
Uh,
And I'm very worried about our young women if they're worried, they want to show their feet. You
mhm.
know,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what
Big
happened to
thing.
working, in a store it doesn't exist anymore when you can make $300 to show your feet kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I'm very worried, we've always had the OnlyFans problem. It's a trafficking site, no matter how you slice or dice
Oh,
it.
yeah.
It,
Mhm.
it,
It's dangerous.
it's a very dangerous. And then you have celebrities, putting out mother-daughter videos on OnlyFans. And this is what our girls are
Oh, it's
seeing.
terrible. When
Yeah.
I come from the modeling industry, I had a girl who was on OnlyFans. She came to me crying, gorgeous girl, 22. I'm like, "Why are you on this?" She's like, "I make 70 grand a month." She was like, "But I've lost." I was like, "Well, what do you have to do on it?" She was like,
Yeah.
"It's really bad. I have to do everything." And she's,
Yes.
like, humiliated and she hates it, but she doesn't know how to stop because of the money she's making.
That's just it. They catch you. It's a predator. It's a trafficker. It
And she
isn't.
was
We call it a
22
trafficking. Yeah.
and her boyfriend was 20 years old. I'm like, "Why are you with a 20-year-old?" She was like, "Nobody will date me. Nobody will take me seriously."
Mm.
That's another problem too. You're on OnlyFans, nobody wants to date you. So these women have all this money and then men don't want to take them seriously. It's a huge problem.
But we have to talk about these issues, and we
Mhm.
have to. She's gonna. I know it's hard to do. Easy for me to say. She's got to give up the money.
Give it
It's
up.
like
Yeah.
and like start afresh or something. Let me go back to something. You mentioned your son, right? Is he
Mhm.
a teenager?
Yes, I was talking about 16-year-old. Mhm.
Yeah. I don't want to pry because you can answer any way you see fit. Is he aware of all these things around you?
Oh, yes. Mhm.
I'm
I
being
talk to
de
my
I'm being
boys about
delicate. I'm
everything.
being delicate here. How many children do you
I
have?
do, but they're being like, "Oh, mom," I have a, 14-year-old, and he's like, "Mom,
Okay.
nobody's gonna, take me or you don't have to worry about me. I can fight anybody off." And I'm like, "Jasper, you need to understand what's really out there."
Yeah.
And it's hard for kids to see it, but I just always want them to be aware. I just tell them the stories,
Yeah.
and it's better that they understand what's really out there than keeping them naive about it.
Yeah, I
Just in case.
agree.
I mean, probably nothing will ever happen to, our kids, but just in case if they're
No,
ever in that
yeah.
situation.
No, parents have to,
Too.
talk open and age appropriate, talk to kids. And the kids have to feel, because this is the biggest complaint I get from kids when I go into schools or focus groups, they can't go to their parent. So that's another problem, the embarrassment or the
Yes.
shame. If they exchange a nude, which a lot of them do, I'm like, just tell people it's AI. Not that I'm trying to make light of it, but with
Right.
AI, I'm
Mhm.
like, we could just
Yeah.
start, nobody found it funny the other day when I said that actually in Washington, because we're working on some AI stuff. I'm like, people should just start saying it's not me, it's
Yeah.
AI.
That's
And
not me.
and it's I know,
But
but
that's the
kids
problem, you just hit on it, Lynn. The children have to feel safe to go to their
safe.
parents. That's the number one problem. They keep the secret in because they're so ashamed to tell the parent. And you have to always tell your children, "You've gotta tell me. It doesn't matter what it is, I'll always love you anyways." It's important to always tell your child that. So if something is happening, they'll feel safe to come to you.
Yeah, that's the best piece of advice. I'm actually meeting with a dad I work with in Washington, and parents did everything right, and their son was sextorted.
Yeah.
They thought they knew about devices and guardrails, and it was a case of such intense cyberbullying, like where these predators don't let go. As you pointed out earlier, like they're going to get what they're going to get. They're going to go for it. but it's so intense, this sextortion they're doing against our teen boys,
Oh, it's
that
terrible.
we have to make the boys aware this is going on. And if anybody, they don't have to answer anybody. They come to a parent or a trusted adult. Like, we have to get that through the heads of kids and the parents, because this father, it breaks my heart. Good
Yeah.
family, everything good. And he got 150 messages in like 1 hour, and he finally just couldn't take the onslaught and he killed himself, which goes into our youth mental health. It goes into so many different areas about all of this.
And the parents didn't know about it?
No, there was nothing.
There's nothing, oh, until they read the messages after? Oh, it's horrible.
He texted his mother like at 10:15 at night, "I'm going to bed, love you." Even though they're in the same house, he texted his mother. No, they had like family dinner earlier. And his
Mm.
sister found him an hour later in the laundry room, and he shot himself. And you have to wonder, those predators and those young minds that aren't fully developed, and the shame, they don't want to report something. They found out afterwards when they went through his
Yeah, they found it
phone.
afterwards,
Of
yeah.
course, it's always that
And
way.
if
They
he
go
if he
through.
had just was able to tell mom or dad, I know what was going on. Ugh,
Or like, when they say, okay, I'm going to distribute the photo around your school. I know, to a kid, to any of us, that might seem horrible, but like, we
horrible,
can't let
yes.
them,
Mm-mm.
win though. Like, we have to say, not interact with them. So I'm always teaching, don't interact with the predator, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Let it go, no matter what they say. Um, what would you say to a mom right now who has a teen boy?
Ooh, talk to your kids. I ask my kids, "Let me see your phone." You know? If they have a girlfriend, let me see the text messages to see how they're talking to each other. It's kind of embarrassing or whatever, but you don't
They
have to go
give
to that
them, they hand them
extreme.
over. Wait, they hand them over
Not
willingly?
easily, not easily, but I just to go through just to see, like, what's the conversation like? Also, just to make sure my kid is speaking respectfully to the
Yes,
girl, right?
yes.
So it's just like, just seeing, don't worry, like, I'm not gonna judge you or whatever, I just wanna see what you're saying, and I've only done it once, but just to make sure everything is okay, or, have a conversation with them how they're speaking to their girlfriend, what's going on at school. A lot of times, here's the best advice that I always give because I know this works. I have 3 boys.
Three
A lot of
boys.
parents will say, "Oh, I always talk to my kids, we have dinners all the time. We go out for dinner." That's not enough. Like, for my boys, taking them away on a week trip, it has to be a week because by the 4th day, they'll start really talking to you. But
Yeah.
it will never happen on a trip for a day or 2 or 3 days, maybe the 3rd day. But after you're with them and, they've forgotten about their friends aren't around, it's just you and them and you're camping or you take them to Orlando, wherever you take them to, they're going to start talking in a completely different way. Spend real time with your kids. Not only does it show them that you love and care about them, but even if you have to save up for a trip and you go kind of cross country or, you go to Joshua Tree or, the Adirondacks, wherever it is with them, spend time with them. That's how they feel loved and cared about. It's not by, dinner at 7 o'clock every night.
I'm glad you said that, Lisa, because kids will say to me, once they trust me and open up, when I'm doing groups and stuff, they'll say, "My parents don't have time for me. My
Yeah.
parents are too busy. My parents are on the computer. My parents are on the phone."
Mhm.
I hear that all the time. And again, we're not judging. We know everybody's
No, we're not
busy,
judging because a lot of
but
parents have to work.
no, but we have to find those 5 minutes even a day to put down that phone, with the kids, and at least, how did your day go? Or open it up. I love the idea of, taking a trip, and
Mhm.
by a couple of days later, they will open up. Like, we have to really invest in our youth. So thank you for being that mom. That's music to my ears. Finish this up. If there's a survivor, I could talk to you forever. So I hope we can come back and do, a part two, a part three. There's just so much to discuss around
Oh,
all
yeah.
of this, right? First of all, you're really to be commended for the work you're doing and speaking out and being so brave and helping others. It's about helping others as well. What would you say to somebody who has not come forward? If they're still feeling fear or shame, um, what would you want to say to them?
Well, you don't have to come out publicly. But
Hmm.
coming forward just like with a close friend or your partner, sibling, parent, being able just to sit down and say, "I've got something to tell you," you know, something really important, right? And just having that conversation is you don't even realize how much of a weight is lifted off of your shoulders
Yeah.
when you actually speak the words out, because you can be thinking about it and putting it away, and or not thinking about it for many, many years. But when you actually start thinking about it, let it go through, let the emotions go through, get upset, get mad, cry, whatever you need to do, and just share with someone that you can trust. Start there. Because then once you start sharing, or with a therapist, but it has to be the right therapist. It needs to be a trauma therapist. I did
Yes.
talk therapy for a while. It didn't work for me at all. I didn't heal anything. It wasn't until I did EMDR therapy, and you guys could look it up. It's EMDR is just it's rapid eye movements, and it's going into that subconscious part where you
Mm.
store things you don't want to talk about or you don't want to think about. It's in there. And that was like a total transformation for me when I started sitting down with a trauma therapist and really
Yeah.
looking into, the past. And a lot of times the childhood, a lot of times you think it's this traumatic episode, but a lot of times it can go back to our childhood.
Yes.
A lot of
Yeah.
times it is the childhood where it starts.
Most victims, it goes back to childhood.
Mhm.
Your podcast from now on, it's very gripping. I mean, it's really, I can't even blink if I'm it's
It
just
is, yeah. It's intense.
no, but I love that because it's truth. And I love truth. I love not sugarcoating things. I love
Mhm.
emotion because that's what this is all about.
No more
Um,
sugarcoating.
no, there's no more sugarcoating at all. What would you say, after the podcast, after each episode, what do you want that viewer or listener, what do you want them to walk away with?
Mm. To feel empowered,
Yes.
right? So to feel empowered
That's it.
in their story. That's mostly it. And then hope. If they're not, quite a few survivors have, I don't know how they did this, but they found a very healthy relationship. They go through the healing process and they are in a wonderful, healing, amazing relationship. And then others, it takes a little bit of time as the healing process to really know your boundaries and really know your self worth to find healthy partners and healthy relationships with others. So it is a healing process, and I always want them to know there's hope. There's hope out there, that if that's what you're looking for as a healthy relationship, well, we all are, is that it is possible.
It's all possible. And it starts with listening to from now on. I mean, it really, because no, but that's infectious. No, I mean that, Lisa. It's like infectious,
It
right?
is.
So, and that's what we need, more infections. Now, that doesn't sound right, what I'm saying, but we need more. But not that. That sounded
Infection.
terrible. But you know what I mean? We need this pause because I also find, listen, I'm going to be truthful with you. Like here in New York, and I know it's like a subject, it's hard work. It can be debilitating to talk about it, or people go rote. Do you know what I mean? Like all these
Oh,
women I
yeah.
know in the different coalitions, I call them like 9 to 5ers. Like I live it and breathe it 7 days a week. But that's because I'm passionate and I can't help myself, right? I'm like a nun. I got a calling. Really, I'm like a nun. Sort
You
of.
do.
Okay.
You
But
do.
other people, you can't turn it on and off and be like a 9 to 5er, and not be a kind of thing. The passion is missing a lot from people working in this field, if we want to call it that. Um, you have to be passionate if you're working with people. And um, I just
Oh,
feel
yeah.
I can feel your passion. That's why I wanted to like have you on and hear what you have to say and share that with everybody because it's infectious. I won't say the other word. It's infectious. It catches on. And that's what makes people happy and empowered. Because I know
Yes.
right now somebody will watch this and all it takes is one. I don't care. One a day. That's all I care about. That's my goal with people. Um, they'll watch this and they will feel empowered, or they will reach out to you. They'll reach out to me, right? Because I'm going to have everything in the body of the video. Because I'm always open for people to write and I provide them with resources in their area, whatever it takes. And we have done our jobs, reaching one person a day. That's how we have to look at it. Because if
Mhm.
we look at the big picture, it's overwhelming. But I just want to circle back before I let you go, even though I think I said that like 3 times, I'm going to let you go because I don't want to let you go. There's so many issues we don't talk about. We don't talk about, familial trafficking, which is huge. I know all my stats for New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and that is something like nobody wants to talk about. And
We
and
do on
and
our
that is,
podcast. We do.
I know you do. That's why I'm bringing it up. But we have to talk about it because it's growing, right? And so this is something people will say, don't talk about that. It's cultural. I'm like, when is it cultural abusing a child? I mean, I'm selling it to your neighbor
No,
for $30. That's not cultural to me. I don't care what you
no.
say. So, we want to talk more about that as well. It's a tough subject because, like you said earlier, I know the powers that be hold down numbers of mine and things like that. They just, truth is tough for a lot of people, kind
Mhm,
of thing. But you're dealing with these subjects. So
mhm.
my warrior's hat is off to you for really handling all of this. I want to make sure everybody knows the website is lisaphillips.la podcast right there, everybody, from now on. Lisa, promise me that we are going to speak again soon because there's so many issues. You are a warrior. You have a home at the Warriors. I am here to support you in every way possible, as we develop our relationship. Um, and I just, God bless you. I mean, for doing
Thank
what
you.
you're doing and helping others and being a ray of sunshine, for others. No, it's the truth. I don't say anything
Thank you,
that's not true.
Lynn. Thank you
No, your
so much.
work, no, your
Yeah,
work is really without peer. And I can't wait to speak to you again soon. Do you have any final words you want to share with
same
us?
here. Oh, it's just been a pleasure talking to you. I feel a real connection with you, and I love what you're doing as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
especially for not being a survivor, that you've lived
I know.
this healthy, wonderful life, and that
I
you care
know.
so much about, so it's the survivors out there. It's a beautiful thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I had a client working, writing a book about domestic violence. This is how it started. And in
Oh,
reading and writing with her, it intersected with human trafficking. It's
mhm,
about 6 years ago. And Lisa, I woke up, I'm like, this is unacceptable.
mhm,
Because in entertainment, they always reached out to me like, oh, can you help our girls in China? Can you
mm,
help our girls in Thailand? Which, we understand there was a world need for all of this. But I woke up and said, what about the girls and women in America? What about
yeah,
the people in America? What about helping
mhm,
right here? And then I just became crazy and I
mhm,
became a warrior. And
good,
that's how it happened. But I'm honored to know you. We will continue. And I'm going to be flying to that LA. I'm coming out there. Get ready.
good,
And
good.
yeah, yeah. And we'll talk and
Excited to
all
see you in
that. But
person.
thank you, Lisa Phillips. We will talk again soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye, Lynn.
Thanks.